So, welcome today to GRWE's panel discussion, Resilience When Facing Uncertainty, a panel discussion by entrepreneurs and for entrepreneurs. So, as you know, running a business is incredibly difficult and quite a journey, but it's no secret, right, that it comes with these significant challenges. And according to some of the recent studies, because I always think, well, is it just me thinking this or is it true? Do other people think about this? So 72% of entrepreneurs report being directly impacted by mental health issues. 30% experience symptoms of depression. 70% of entrepreneurs feel lonely throughout the journey. 62% feel they are sacrificing their present lives for future success. And 84% say there's a stigma around mental health. However, 51% say that they do believe it's getting better. So, balancing the pressure of growth, financial uncertainty, and personal well being can feel overwhelming. But just a reminder to all of you, to all of us, that we don't have to do this alone, which is part of why Emily and I started Grow back a couple of years ago. We believe that a strong support system is crucial for entrepreneurial success. And our community provides not only opportunities to network and share ideas, but also access to mentorship, resources, and tools designed to help you thrive both personally and professionally. And this statement is what we are. So get ready with entrepreneurs. We're a gathering of like-minded entrepreneurs interested in building our brands through networking and sharing of ideas and best practices. And as much as quite often there's a focus on marketing right now, our goal is to think more holistically to help us build sustainable businesses to support our people, planet, and profits. So please do check it out, grow.ca. And this is just a little bit more about the membership. And just a reminder, it is free to join. There is, attend events like this, get weekly newsletters, and you can check that out, grow.ca/membership. If you're interested in all the resources, and this is what we found, we just wanted a central place and everyone just wanted access to all of this because we've been building out templates and tutorials and videos and workshops and things for a couple years now. And now you can get access to all of that right in your own member portal. So you can try it out for free. Use the QR code, grow.ca/membership-sign up, and you can get the first month free. So let's get started. So today, we hope this session will inspire you, provide actionable strategies, and remind you that resilience is a skill that can be cultivated. You're going to hear from experienced entrepreneurs who faced uncertainty head on and emerged stronger. It's also an interactive session, so we do encourage you to ask questions during the Q&A. And this is our agenda for today. So we're doing this introduction. The panel discussion is going to be around three key topics. First, defining resilience in entrepreneurship. What is it? And what is the experience you've had? And then the second is what strategies you can share and learn and adopt to be more resilient. And then finally, to discuss community. What impact has your community had? What are you looking for in a community to build resilience? And finally, 30 minutes, give or take. It won't be exactly that because it might go over the hour, but we're going to have a time of discussion where we can all get involved. And just remember, if you want to stay off camera, you can put your questions in the chat. You can just sit in listen mode. That's all really great too. And then during Q&A, if you want a question, come on camera if you want to talk and engage with us. So let's get started. Our first panelist, Nelson LIem from Xmers, founder and operator. He has been empowering Calgary businesses through trade for over 20 years. That's experience. With a Bachelor of Commerce and Marketing from the U of Calgary, Nelson's early career included a unique internship as a cultural ambassador at Walt Disney World. Ooh, you have to find out more about that. And roles in marketing and sales within the tech industry. Driven by a passion for connection and collaboration, Nelson built Xmers, now a thriving network of over 500 businesses in Calgary and Edmonton. Xmers.com is where you can learn more about Nelson. And then second, Ronna. Thank you, Ronna, for joining us. Positive intelligence and executive coach. So, Ronna has spent 30 years as a naturalist guide and leadership facilitator in Banff National Park, a certified positive intelligence and executive coach. Ronna helps clients recover from burnout, reimagine life in retirement, or align with their purpose. Her personal journey through coaching and nature inspires her work, helping others navigate life with ease and grace. Forcefix.ca, and I will put a plug in because Ronna has helped me out this summer, and I can give a strong testimonial on how that has helped me build resilience too. So, welcome, Ronna. And Renee, unfortunately, she was going to be part of our our panel today, and because of an emergency, family emergency, she's not been able to attend, but she's here in spirit. Please do reach out. She's an amazing fitness, years of being in an entrepreneurial family. She's incredible. But check her out, bestrongfitness.ca, and she's also on LinkedIn. And she's part of our Grow founding community too. So when you do join Grow, you'll get to meet Renee in the future. And myself, Laura Dunkley, founder of Grow and also Fractional CMO and consultant. And I have started my first business back when I was 19 and have been working for startups, helping startups for many years since then, focused on marketing, but I've done sales, retail, business development, public relations, all of that. And now I help other entrepreneurs build their brands and their businesses. So our website's acornstudio.marketing, but I'm also on LinkedIn. All right, let's get started. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Questions? I'm just going to make sure the chat is open. Hold on. So that I can see all you guys. And yes, please do introduce yourself. Chat amongst yourself in the chat space. It's pretty amazing. If anyone on the panel too throughout this has any resources or tips that they'd like to share and introduce themselves, please do. This is part of the building of the community. Okay, so first, let's start with Nelson. You're at the top of my left. Welcome, Nelson. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Because that was a very brief introduction. And also, what resilience means to you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So thanks again, Laura, for organizing this. And it's great to connect with all of you this morning. So my name's Nelson LIem, born and raised right here in Calgary. Had the opportunity to work at Walt Disney World. So I worked as a cultural ambassador for Canada. So, I mean, the title of, cultural ambassador sounds better than, what the actual job entailed. So I actually worked at Epcot, and it was actually my first experience just in the hospitality industry, so food and beverage. So, just coming out of university, it was my first time, being away from home and being independent, and it was a great experience for sure. And so today, I operate Alberta's leading barter exchange company called Exmer. So, founded the company back in 2004, locally here in Calgary. We represent 500 plus companies. We just recently expanded into Edmonton. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with barter exchanges, we've essentially modernized the way businesses barter by introducing a digital currency. So we call it Xmers dollars. So when most people think of barter or trade, they naturally think of direct trading. Let's say advertising in exchange for printing services. Now, through Xmers, we use a digital currency, Xmers dollars, to value products and services. So, whatever you as a business would charge out there in the cash world, that's what you would now charge in Xmers dollars through a network. Now, what does resilience mean to me as an entrepreneur? There's so many things. I think it's having the mental toughness to achieve your dreams and goals, not allowing for negative thoughts to, enter your mind, because I think it's very easy for us as entrepreneurs to, be like, geez, I'm not sure if I can do that, or, I might fail at this. working hard, persevering, no matter how hard it feels. And I think, one of the things that's very important is just simply having the discipline and focus in doing things consistently and just not giving up. So, those are some things top of mind that, come to mind when I think of resiliency.
Awesome. Thanks, Nelson. Ronna, can you do a little intro and
Sure. Thanks, Laura. Thanks for organizing this and inviting me into the group of people here. So as Laura said, in the past, or I still do, I work as a naturalist and a hiking guide. So part of my business is tourism, and part of it is like coaching, leadership development, and team building. And yeah, so I use my outdoor skills to bring teams together to help people, I guess, find that resilience, because as somebody who has really made a lot of mistakes in the past, burnt myself out thoroughly, I can see that the time in nature has been deeply soothing, and it's helped me come back. It's helped me find answers. I get stuck, if I'm on these devices too long. And so now I use that as really the basis of how I work with a lot of people. Um, yeah, and I use a variety of techniques as to how I do that. So my business partner is the land, essentially, and in it just works like a charm. So in terms of what is resiliency to me, there's kind of two ways that I see this. The first is, yeah, similar to what Nelson said, when we have challenges, we come back. Maybe, hopefully, we come back stronger. Maybe we've learned some lessons. Maybe we've even taken it to the next level and we've made a gift out of those hard situations that we find ourselves in. And then the other part of resilience, for me, is it's like uh, it's practices that help my mental health, help me so that I can be light of foot, or I can be adaptable, and maybe see opportunities. Because if I'm really myopic and I'm in that stressed out mode all the time, that's really not my best self as to how I want to work. And so I kind of use the resiliency as prevention. No, that's not even the right word. But it's like building into my mental health so that I can, yeah, see opportunities and be light of foot. We can talk more.
we'll get more into this.
Mm.
And since I'm going to join as a panelist, since Renee is not able to be here, entrepreneur since for like many years, as I mentioned, my family started a business when I was 18. And so I was thrown into it. I was the creative, wonderful one. And no, no choice. There I was, and making the best of it. So you do it, and it was tough. And through recessions, the family business, and then started my own and sold it 20 years later. And then just worked for startups, because that freedom and the ability to do it, I've realized how much I actually love it despite the hardships. And so now, which is why after leaving the city, I continued to help entrepreneurs just through Acorn and all the work I've done building out the community through Grow. And so resiliency for me has really been just the hard knocks. You know how when you work out and you have to break down the muscle to sort of build it up and make it stronger. That's where I found is you do learn and adapt, right? Like you do it and then you realize, oh, I survived that, right? It's like, okay, well, then I could survive this. So the more experience, the more things and strategies I've found and do things, you just become more resilient. It's easier to pick yourself up. It's not easier. It's just I know I can survive more than I used to. So it does take time for me to build up that resiliency, but I also realize that you need strategies. You can't just magically become resilient. Like there's a lot of things you got to learn and you got to do it and figure that out. So but it's important for mental health, for physical health, and for success as my business. So I'm excited to be here and be a part of this. So maybe we can talk about some examples. Nelson, going back to you, do you have a specific something that you could share that was a challenge and how you overcame it?
Yeah, for sure. So, I want to be, vulnerable and transparent, and, trust this is, a very, safe space. And, I hope what I share today, resonates with, people. So I actually went through a divorce 8 years ago. And so, I would have to say this was probably the hardest thing, I've, ever experienced in my lifetime. And, it's certainly something, I don't wish upon anyone. And so I think, what this made this even more difficult, is we had two young children, aged 2 and 6. And, while I was going through this, I think just mentally, emotionally being exhausted and drained. And, work was certainly just, kind of the last thing that was, on my mind. But, I still had a responsibility to, my staff, our clients, and, most important, myself and to my kids. And so, what I think really helped me during this process was, first I was lucky enough to, have a team that, supported me during the business. We kind of went into a maintenance mode, that year, not really looking to onboard more customers, but really just focused on referrals and, keeping our current clients happy. Obviously it's important to, continue to socialize. I had a best friend, who was really a support system that, allowed me to just kind of vent, right? I think too often we kind of hold, everything within. And, I think, just for our own mental health, it's important to, talk and just get things out. Obviously I had my parents and my sister. Um, what really helped me mentally was, I kept telling myself, and it was a phrase that I just told myself time and time and time again, is everything will work itself out in the end. Because, by telling myself this, it allowed for me to be less anxious. Because I think the more we want to control things, the more anxious we get, the more stressed we get. So I think just that phrase mentally helped me just calm myself down. Also just kind of leaned, on my faith and, believe and trusted God that, he'd take care of everything. So whether you believe in God or not, it's about trusting the process.
Cool. Thanks, Nelson. That's definitely a challenge that you saw through. Ronna?
Thanks, Laura. I think the situation that comes to mind is COVID was really challenging for me. So, half my business is tourism, and the other half is like leadership development, and all of those kind of went out the window when everything was shutting down in that March. And I remember there were days that I was losing tens of thousands of dollars a day. Um, and I was sort of set up to have the best year ever. And I had this new contract. It was a nice fat contract. And yeah, just, cancellation after cancellation after cancellation. And so a couple things really helped. Obviously, all of our nervous systems were completely deregulated during that really stressful time. And so we spent a lot of time outside. So I live in Canmore, which is right next to Banff National Park. And so I would go outside, and this is the early days. We take our family outside, try to get off our social, try to get off the computer because it just really sucks us in and it's not good for us. And I found that was like this balm, this soothing balm for my nervous system. So that was the early days, and then the cancellations. As everyone realized the reality of what was going on, then it was cancellation after cancellation. And I was just trying to, I always think, when a door closes, a window opens, and it's like, okay, what can I do? And so one of the processes, one of the guiding things I do is I also do something called forest bathing. And it's not about, wandering around outside naked. That's not at all what it is. It's really a process to connect to nature for the sheer sake of connecting to nature to receive the medicine of being on the land. And there's a process that we take people through. And so one of my colleagues in Portugal, so I trained guides and hiking guides and forest bathing guides. And one of my colleagues thought, I have all these friends around the world. They're all stressed out. They're locked in their homes. They're just a mess. I'm going to try this process, with my phone and see if this works. And so I was part of that early adoption, and it did. And so I quickly was trying to figure out, how do I do this with my phone? How do I do this on Zoom? I was still pretty new to Zoom, and I made lots of mistakes, but I figured it out. And so I did a lot of this on my phone. And for me, just being able to um, help other people, like get out of myself and help other people. I didn't really make very much money, but it just helped me. It just helped me with my own mental health. And it's like, okay, I can do this. This is something else we can try. We eventually adapted our whole training system to be online. Worked. It actually worked. It was really awesome. And I just kind of had to get through a couple of years. And I knew I just had to get through that. I knew I had to just get through this period of time and that things would come back. I didn't know when they were going to come back, but I just had to get through it. And so one of the things I chose to do is I signed up for coaching courses because I've always wanted to do this, but because of my guiding schedule, and sometimes I'm training, in the States or Canada, like I've had it's a busy schedule. I wasn't able to kind of meet these in-person courses. And so they were all adapting too. So the first one I did was positive intelligence. And the short of this is the idea is that we have an inner Darth Vader and an inner Jedi. And our inner Darth Vader is always telling us that this is the fight, right? It's like Star Wars, right? The fight of good and bad inside of our own heads. So the Darth Vader is telling you that you suck, you're never good enough. This situation's bad. That person's definitely bad. And then you have this inner Jedi that's telling you, let's be curious. Let's look for the positive. Let's make a gift out of this. Let's rise to the occasion. And I took this right kind of just as COVID was I think it was April of 2020. And it just really helped me calm myself down and go, how can I make a gift? So I decided that during COVID, as crappy as it was, and I didn't know how long it was going to last, I didn't know how bad it was going to get, I decided I was going to make a gift out of it. And so I did this positive intelligence course and I loved it. And then that gave me a boost to do more of the professional coaching, which I've always wanted to do with Coach Training International. So I got my executive certification a year later. And that whole coaching and having support and, really it's people helping me dig in and asking me questions like, who's running the show here? Is it your saboteurs? Is it this? Is this at the Darth Vader, because that comes from the back of your brain. That's your survival brain. That's not really where you want to make decisions. Or is it the Jedi, which we call the sage in that system? This is your higher intelligence. And so it really helped me to learn how to regulate myself and to catch myself when I was spiraling downhill. And then I just sort of did the basics, and I did go into debt, um, which I got myself out of debt. But basically, I knew if I could just hold on, and I was really lucky with my business. I don't have a lot of overhead. It's just me. I take people hiking. I do leadership programs. That if I could just hold on, it would come back. And so I was trying to just improve myself, and I did, and it did come back. And oh my God, it came back and then some. It was like the dam broke and everyone needed to come to Banff. And unfortunately, the leadership stuff that I did out of the BAM Center, was hit really hard by all of this. But so then it forced me to step out and start making more connections and meeting people and networking, things like that. So that's how I dealt with some of those challenging situations, and I feel like I am in a better position for that now. I love bringing this all together. I see how powerful it is, and these are some of the programs I created, like taking exhausted leaders out into places like Lake O'Hara, Moraine Lake, doing coaching and so on. I've always wanted to do those, but I just didn't have the confidence or the time to really think it through. And then I did through this process. And so those are ready to go. And oh my God, they're amazing. So that's kind of what I've done with hard situations. How about you, Laura?
I love it. What I hear from that is that willingness to try and just say yes, right? Even overcoming those fears, what you were saying, and your adaptability. And and you just have to be flexible. We got to go with the flow. And I loved your creativity with that. For me, For me, it has recently, and I have many stories, but the most recent was back in September. I had my retina detached and I had to have emergency surgery for my eye, and it happened right away. Like I went in at 3 o'clock to the optometrist and she says, "You're going in for surgery tomorrow." And I'm like, "What? No, 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 no." I have a business to run. I'm a solopreneur. What am I going to do? And a lot of emotional stuff going on, right? Like all of the crazy stuff. So to back up what I'm grateful for, and that helped me through it. And it was a rough time, and mostly because I am very visual dependent. That is what anchors me. It's my sight. My business is visual. It's just, I didn't realize how much so until this happened. I learned visually, all of it. And so stepping back, I am glad I did things to prepare me for this, because I had done, I had fallen and gotten back up many times. I kind of knew what I needed intuitively. So I moved across from Ontario to Calgary 2 years ago, and I knew 3 people. It was like, pack the car, let's go. What's the worst that can happen? And I needed an adventure. But that meant no family, no friends, no business network other than my wonderful team, my people from Ontario that connected with me, my clients. So what happens? So when physically I need help, and I am so grateful that I had started networking and building a community and just going outside comfort zone. Hey, who are you? And you just make these connections, and you don't realize how amazing some of these people are until there's a crisis. And they just all came forward because I was very fearful. What am I going to happen? Because you can't be alone when you have retina detachment. They won't actually do the surgery, and I live alone. So this is one of those things. So all these wonderful people came out, and then it's like, well, yeah, but who's going to actually drive me to the surgery and whatever? Well, my good friend Scott, his mom just stepped in, who is an amazing person, and said, "Nope, I'm going to take you in and I'm going to take care of you, and we're going to make this all happen." Well, the emotions were incredible. So you have to have your face down like for 2 weeks almost. And the point is you're vulnerable. You can't look at your phone, you can't look at anything, and someone has to now take care of you. And as entrepreneurs, we want to do it all ourselves. So that was incredibly vulnerable, but letting her help was amazing. And it also forced me to start using my other senses. So I started listening to these audiobooks. I started grateful so for my network, but also grateful for the time that I did with therapy and going out with Ronna to Lake O'Hara Moraine Lake. And so I was able to tap into that visual memory in my mind. I just took walks. That was incredible. So all of that stuff helped me calm my system, just that muscle memory. And then learning to do audio. I'm still not really great with audio, but listening to some good books, and came out of that also with a time of rest. I don't stop to take time for myself, and it forced me to. It's like the universe went, "Nope, I'm going to force you to stop." So as crazy as that is, but also that my eye now has not come back fully. So now I have to adapt to this new way of living. But the last point I wanted to make was I am also grateful that I had some business continuity, preparedness put into place. As always, it was my upbringing. I spent time doing business continuity with one of my startup clients, and so understood that you have to prepare. What happens if you can't work? Because if I don't work, I don't, you don't get paid. And so making sure you have multiple revenue streams and making sure you have things in order for if something happens. It's huge. So fortunately, my daughter, who's my partner, was my partner. She's moved on, but she has access to all my processes. She knows them, all my passwords. She knows. She just picked right up and she says, "Mom, going to take care of it for you." And she stepped right in. And so that I am so grateful for, and I highly would recommend that. So that's my resilience story, and I'm still building on that one. So cool. Okay. Now on that, and we've kind of touched on strategies for resilience, right? Like things like this, but I would put it back to you guys, Ron and Nelson. Any tips? I mean, I've added a bunch in there. Any tips that you guys could share with the group on different strategies, things that you do to help build resilience in your work, Nelson?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, mentally, again, I go back to, disciplining your emotions, believing in yourself. I think that's you know, that's a huge thing. Again, I think day in, day out, there's so many things happening, so many thoughts we have in our heads. And, I think, again, as entrepreneurs, you're just like, geez, if you have a bad month, how am I going to pay this bill? But, just, telling yourself again, everything will work itself out, in the end. Again, for me, it's just, that phrase really just kind of resonated with me because, again, it just helped to really calm my nerves and made me less anxious, resulting in just being less stressed. I think, trying to clear your mind. So for me, I'm big into fitness. I love, working out, snowboarding, stuff like that. So it just, again, that was my just time to, just focus on myself and just kind of de-stress. And I think also surrounding yourself with people who truly care and understand, getting plugged into a network, a community of other entrepreneurs because they get it, sometimes, when I talk with, my friends who are, in the professional world and talk about, my entrepreneurial experience or whatnot, they don't, they're supportive, but they truly don't understand, what I'm going through. So, I think for me, just yeah, just being connected and we're all social people in one way or another, so I think just having a good support group that's, got your back.
Cool. Thanks, Nelson. Rana?
Echo a lot of what Nelson said as well. So the strategies as to what keeps you grounded, what calms your nervous system. As I get older, I really see that my mental health, it really comes down to my nervous system. And if my nervous system is deregulated because I'm all stressed out, there's a cascading effect of negativity that goes from me to all the people around me. And so what is that for you? Is it physical activity? Is it prayer and meditation? Is it yoga? Like, what is that? For me, a lot of it is nature. I meditate, I do all of that kind of stuff, but it's just really prioritizing those practices. And you start first thing in the morning, and then you end your day. Like what there, it's for me, it needs to be a bookends. Um, yeah, for me, a big one is nature. It's like the low-hanging fruit of mental health. And all the research shows this. And 15 minutes a day for a quick walk will make a world of difference for your mental health. The other thing is, so all of that calms your nervous system. So this relates to what I was talking about. You have this inner Darth Vader and this inner Jedi. And what happens is when we are deregulated, what happens is we go into that back brain. That's your survival brain. And that is not where you want to be living or working from, because that what happens is we have mirror neurons in our brains. And so if I am coming from that inner Darth Vader, which we call saboteurs, so they sabotage ourselves and others, that has this cascading effect onto the people around us. So your work, your clients, your family, your partner, right? So if we're operating from this place, this is not going to end well for you. And so the idea here is that when we do these practices, especially sensorial practices, so a little walk in nature, maybe you rub your fingers together, you do some deep breathing, what that does is it helps you migrate your brain activity from the back to the front so you can come into that Jedi, or which we call your sage, your wiser elder self. And this is where you have access to higher level thinking, creativity, problem solving, innovation, right? As entrepreneurs, we have to be innovative. And so the whole idea of taking care of yourselves is so you can live from here. This is where you want to live. This is where the good stuff is for you, your business, your family, everything. And so that's my big strategy is to be preventative or proactive. That's the word I've been looking for today, is proactive, getting grounded, catching myself when I'm in that negative spiral and going, oh, wait a minute, I'm not in a good place here. And I'll take a few minutes. I'll rub my fingers together, I'll wiggle my toes, I'll do some deep breathing. it's like 2 minutes. It's nothing. And then to help me to adjust that. So there's more to it than that, but it's essentially it is who's running my business. Is it the Darth Vader or is it the Jedi? So just to quickly finish is, and then taking time to reflect. How did I do on that? Even when I'm guiding, I'm always reflecting when I'm driving home. How did that go? Could I have done anything different? And then just, I think this whole reflection and the idea of making a gift out of things is really important. What are my lessons learned? Because what that does is it makes my skin a little thicker. I think like this helps me be a little thicker. Things don't land on me and attach to me as much, and then I have a bigger toolkit. So I would say those are my pieces.
Cool. I love that. Quickly before we jump, one more minute, and then we're going to jump into some Q&A. Is that I have had a lot of strategies over the years to manage different things and stress. One was exercise. And I know there's a stat on one of the links that I will share out to you guys that exercise is a big thing, but I've hurt myself so many times over the years that I haven't had exercise. I've had my community and family taken away from me. I've had a lot of my strategies removed. And it's like, nope, I'm not going to give you this. You got to find another way and to find another way, to the point where it was just my mind that was left. And this last fall, that's what it was. So a mindset is what I have. So if exercise is taken away, it is my core driving thing, and to make sure I have that mindset in place. So goals, like having a vision of what I want to achieve, making sure I have defined goals, and having an action plan is core for me to keep me going and picking myself up, because it gives me the why, right? It gives me the why I'm going to keep doing. And then the last thing is discipline, because when all the craziness happens, and I'm going to say craziness, when you have the discipline, it just kicks into action. And I go back to one of the stories I often share about mountain biking. They say don't look at the rocks because you're going to hit them. So it's like, I know when I'm exhausted on a mountain bike race, I don't race anymore, but in those days, I'm going to forget that. And so I would practice looking at rocks and riding around them. Look at rocks, ride around them. So when I was exhausted, the muscle memory would kick in. And so that's where the discipline comes in. So when you do have those unexpected things happen, make sure you can just fall back on that. So that's my final one. There's so many more, and I know we can all share more, but I want to get you guys to start to talk and share, ask questions, insights. Let's do it. Anyone want to jump in from the audience on your experience and maybe something has happened to you, and that how you've overcome it? Okay, Jarrett.
Hi. I was just going to put it in the chat, but I found, so yeah, I agree. Like resilience is all about taking the knocks and then kind of bouncing back, I think, because especially when you're an entrepreneur, things are going to be hard. I found that when I was struggling, it was because I was so busy taking care of everybody else, I wasn't able to tell my story. And I discovered partly through therapy, frankly, but partly just through trying different things, that when you can make an authentic connection with someone, and you can hear their story and you can ask them questions. When I hear my story in someone else, I feel heard, which was awesome, because you can feel like it can be hard to share, for one, and it can also be hard to like find a space where you can tell your story, right? But if you can ask other people, and especially if you can connect, as you guys have said, with other entrepreneurs or other people in a similar circumstance, that really helps. And then the last thing, so like therapy, connections, and then the last thing was a book that my therapist actually recommended, which is called The Obstacle is the Way. It's like a modern explanation of Stoicism. We all think about Stoicism as like stiff upper lip and all that. That's not what it is. But it's just helping you kind of get through, like literally the obstacle is the way. Stuff is going to happen, and how do you kind of move through it? Yeah.
Yep. That's great, Jarrett. Thank you. Anyone else? Rick? Hey.
I've got a long story of mental health. I had a great career in communications and social work. And I don't know, about 17, 16 years ago, got burnt out and mental health really kicked in. And I was on CPP disability for 14 years. I had 13 hospitalizations in that time with a few suicide attempts as part of that. And I think the resiliency really kicked in for me when my wife said, why don't you start a business? Because you can't really hold a job with this depression. Why don't you start a business part-time, few mornings a week, just to get out of the house and, you know, get some confidence in yourself. And so yeah, this little business I started has blown up, and we've got a couple employees now. And it's entrepreneurship has done amazing things for moving me ahead in life and getting past the really difficult mental health issues. I still, you know, suffer daily, but it's not anyone near what it was. And sometimes it's just means coming out to my desk and sitting here and working away, and you know, that gets me through it.
Thanks, Rick, for sharing. And we know you've had quite a few awards and show up and support, and amazing work you've done. Thanks. Anyone else wants to? Bonnie, welcome, Bonnie.
Thank you. There's construction noise here and it stopped for a minute, so I'll volunteer quick. But for me, resiliency and entrepreneurship, they've come hand in hand because entrepreneurship has helped me find my purpose in life. And that might sound like such a big deal, but it was really hard to get to that. And there was a lot of life challenges that happened in that journey. And the thing that I realized was that although I was learning how to be an entrepreneur, because they didn't teach that in school when I went to school, and I had to apply all of the life skills and previous business skills I had and learn how to become this business owner and creative and strategist. And in all of that, life kept throwing all sorts of curveballs, from health to family issues to many other things I won't talk about. But in all of that, it was actually a bracelet from Tim Hortons that said resiliency on it that I got from a friend, because they were collecting all of the camp bracelets that year. And they handed it to me and said, I think you need to have this. And I looked at that and I thought, huh. I was like, okay, that's an interesting word. And so I wore that bracelet for about 6 months, and I would just notice it on my wrist, and it would remind me in all those tough times to just continue to be resilient and like, I've got this. And so thank you to that friend who gave me that Tim Hortons bracelet.
Wow, Bonnie, thanks for sharing. That's amazing. A reminder that actually having symbols and things to look to can be really helpful visually, and then having a friend that cared enough to give it to you. So that's pretty awesome. Thanks. Anyone else?
Can I just share something very similar to Bonnie's? And I move my camera around. Sorry, guys. But, that's a tattoo I got. I can't move my arm the right way. It symbolizes to me that you know, life was going on, and then I had a pause in my life, 14 years of it, but you know, like a semicolon in a sentence, I found a way to continue my story.
Cool. Thanks, Rick. That's a pretty cool tattoo. That's awesome. Anyone else?
Hi, Laura. I can't come on screen just
Hey,
right now.
oh, that's okay, Des. Hey.
So yeah, what a great subject. I think there's a lot of factors, but I think many of us become entrepreneurs, even if we're successful, because we just don't feel we fit, because sometimes because of mental health issues or personality types, or they're just not, lots of people ADD become business owners, for example, and you think, wow, that's not good, because you need to be organized, and ADD sometimes can make you not so organized, but you also have a different personality. So some of us are driven out to it. And I think, so whilst entrepreneurship can stress people out, for some of us, yes, it does. I think it stresses all of us out to a greater or less degree. But some of us, we're better off in that stress than a different type of structured hierarchical career stress sometimes, which can be very, very tough as well. So I think that's something to recognize within ourselves, depending on who you are and how you got there. But talking about things that have helped, and I think we've all had journeys and different things that certainly lots of people have shared. There's a lot more to their stories and difficult times, and I certainly can relate to that. But I got to tell you two things. One, I met with a friend I haven't seen for 8 years ago, just last weekend, and we spent 2 or 3 hours just talking, and I had no idea more than the basics, that she was a businesswoman I greatly admired. And anyway, we went through the journeys of life that have happened since we last saw each other, and she's had it tough, but she shared with her, very kind of her, I'm so grateful, a lot of her resiliency tools. I haven't even had a chance to go through them all, but it was an incredible, I had so much admiration for this person anyway, but much, much, much more now as well. And so she's been at the top, and she's been in difficult and dark places in her life and career and everything. So just learning her story, hearing her story was amazing. But the biggest and most significant thing I've done, and I do the meditation, I try and do this, I try and do that. I can certainly relate to what a lot of other people said. But I just had a 3.5-week vacation in the UK, back seeing old friends, old places I used to live, family. I've got a huge family. It's hard to keep in touch with them all. I probably haven't done a very good job in recent years. Canada's far away from a lot of places. And I've gone through divorce and businesses, ups and downs, and all the stresses and strains of being a parent, and all of those things that you can all relate to a greater or lesser degree. And I have to tell you, I am a new person. I've always needed breaks regularly. That's the way my brain works best. That's the way my stress handles well. But it has been, and there's no one aspect. I went to lots of different places. I saw lots of different people, but it was just in aggregate. It's strong to say it, but feel transformed. And then about a week back, some of the very difficult problems I'm dealing with, like one of them is my divorce. Can't get it resolved. I can't get it settled. And other things that are real threats, because they're financial threats, they're other type of threats. And that was tough but it was nowhere near as tough as it was before. And so if all else fails, take yourself away. We put it off because we're so busy. We put it off because we're growing a business. We put it off because of this, that, and the other. Sometimes you just need a break, and the impact it can have is sometimes transformative, especially if you've left it too long, as I had. So I really feel so much better.
Thanks, Des. And sometimes it's just small breaks periodically, because it's hard to take 3 weeks away from your business sometimes. And
100%, yeah, I do it the
right.
small ways, and I didn't do that this
Yeah.
time. Big one to make up.
No, but it's great. My goodness, 3 weeks. Awesome, Des. Anyone else want to share?
I could share.
Thank you. I was hoping you would. Thanks, Tara.
Thank you. No, thank you so much for creating this space for entrepreneurs to speak and learn about each other. My story is a little bit different because I'm running a nonprofit organization, and that's a whole different story as an entrepreneur. So for me, resiliency came very, I guess, important in 5 years ago, I would say. When I started my nonprofit, that first year I got into a car accident and I was injured. It took me 5 years to recover fully from the injuries of the accident. But at that same time, since it was just the beginning of the organization, I kind of just dedicated myself to the community, and I was a full-time volunteer. And I was also not employable with my injuries. So it really made sense to me to just do what I like to do and see where it goes. And I could take breaks as many as I needed because I was my own boss and nobody was, managing me. But I accomplished so much within that 5 years while I was still recovering. And I think like and my work is we enhance mental health through arts and creativity. My organization at that time, we were doing projects like murals for different communities. And so I guess just being on the path and taking small steps and just keep going. Just keep going and not thinking that, well, this is the end and it's just going nowhere, especially again with nonprofit, because the money is not coming from the people you serve. So you might serve 1,000 people, and still not make any money. And so it's just like figuring out how to get into that system of, well, you need to pay people, you need to pay yourself, you need to grow as a business. Eventually, nonprofit, it doesn't mean it doesn't have any profit. You still need to sustain. So learning all of those things along also doing things that I was still enjoying was very challenging. But now looking back, this year is our 10-year anniversary, and I'm just feeling very proud and accomplished, although still feels like we have a very long way ahead of us for the vision that I had when I started, but it feels good that there is some solid foundation, more or less. So
Great story. Thanks for the insight, Tara. Because you serve and you support us, I did drop a link into the chat if anyone would like to see more about what Tara does. And what I hear from you and others too, it's a reminder not only to take time, thanks Des for that, but to look back and celebrate our accomplishments. I mean, you were always pushing forward, but to pause and consistently, within at least once a year, or like put it on your calendar or something, to just go, hey, I got through that. I came out okay. And like Nelson said, this too shall pass, right? It's like, and not just that, we became better and stronger usually out of that, and maybe some creativity. So in the moment, just to remember that, to calm down our nervous system, right, Ronna? And maybe take a walk or get out to nature and use our supports, call a friend. So many strategies out of today's session, and so much sharing. And I want to thank you guys for sharing your stories and your insights and tips, because we can continue to grow together. I'm hoping, do feel free to join GROW. It's GRWE.ca. If you want to it's free to join our sessions and get the newsletter. And then there's so many other community stuff here in Calgary. Nelson has his, there's so many community people, right, through the mastermind group that you do. And then just find the right group, but find it. It helps with accountability. It helps with support. And then keep showing up. So please do check grow.ca/events is where the events all will be. And we hope to see you guys again soon. Have a great day.
thanks, Laura, for organizing.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you.